Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. Sunday, the 7th of January 2024. Happy New Year to those of you who have not seen or spoken to wish you a Happy New Year. Hope you're all well. We are now a subscriber only, member only. All of it's behind a membership tier, so please try not to share the link. The way it works is it's a link I send out to all of you. I'll try for 8 o'clock, either via email, the Red Wall and the Rabble email, and for those of you still on YouTube, subscription via the YouTube subscription. I've asked those of you on YouTube who subscribed only via YouTube, there's no need to put a member only lock on anymore, so you're more than welcome to cancel your YouTube subscriptions and just make sure you've got a subscription with Red Wall and the Rabble, and I never made any money from the YouTube anyway. It went towards our Christmas parties and our various gatherings, so whatever I have left I'll put into a maybe a post-May, maybe a post-election drink in May to see what the world looks like. Okay, let's start. I've got quite a bit to get through with you all today. If my internet goes, please bear with me. Vodafone have sent me a new hub or something, arrived back end of last week, but I've just not had a chance yet to connect everything up because it'll take me half a day to connect that and rejig all of my various devices. So I've not got the courage yet to go and solve that. We're looking a bit dark. I think, is that a bit dark? Can I turn that up a bit? Let me just check. There you go, that'll do us, I think. Good evening, Gary. Good evening, Julie, Sheila, everyone, Lee and Nick, Evan. So, I want to start with someone sent me a link on Telegram, I think it was Tony, who shared that it happened, that the Royton Independents have put out a statement from the Royal British Legion. Well, that one, it's not a statement from the Royal British Legion that they've put out. They've been a bit cheeky and shared an email correspondence and jumped to a conclusion that the RBL do not make at all. Now, my point is and has been, and I raised this point because it was members of the Royton Royal British Legion who contacted me in the first place. Multiple members of the Royal British Legion who contacted me in the first place. My point has always been that a member of the public should not march ahead of veterans on a Remembrance Day parade. It's as simple as that. A member of the public should not be marching ahead of veterans. Now, I get why dignitaries have got to do it, the civic VIPs, so on and so on, but not an ordinary member of the public, and worse, an ordinary member of the public who turns up like a scruff for not wearing a tie. And I maintain that viewpoint. My mother, if she was alive, would have slapped me into next week if I'd gone to an event like that inappropriately dressed. So, instead of acknowledging that this advisor of hers, John Hughes, who lives in Chadderton, by the way, nothing to do with Royton, lives in Chadderton, by the way, should not have been marching the way he was, in the place he was, attired the way he was. Maggie Hurley uses and draws in the RBL attempting to attack me and make me out to be a liar. Well, we all know she's devious. And let's be clear on why and how she's devious. Put aside anything I have to do with her or how she's exploited any of you in using the CSE to progress herself. Put aside all of that. She's devious in the sense that that very first amendment that the the independent group put forward, of which Mark Ince was the leader, Maggie Hurley went behind her leader's back, took her name off seconding that amendment, and tried to expose her own leader as a fool, as a simpleton, as a moron. And if it hadn't been for me, then Mark Ince would have looked all of those things and worse. So she threw her own leader under the bus. So that is the context and the truth of where we're at, beside all of the other things that have gone on. Now, all Maggie Hurley had to do was acknowledge that John Hughes shouldn't have been stood where she was, but she came up with a convoluted reason and tries to manipulate the Royal British Legion's position. Well, members of the Royal British Legion have been in touch with me, and they shared with me, first of all, this. This is the first thing they shared with me. You can see, it's a photograph of the notes of the protocol. And if you go on the web, and you can see, line up for the parade, band if available, clergy and choir, civic VIPs, Legion standards, standards of other ex-service associations, uniform public services, youth organisations, uniformed organisations take precedence, and then the general public. John Hughes is a member of the general public. He should never have been there. And here is the members of the Royal British Legion, appalled themselves, telling me about this and contacting me themselves. I have no, if I'm honest with you, I had no knowledge of this. Why would I? I go to the one in Oldham. And I stand and watch as a member of the public. So, and this is it on their own webpage as well, if there was any ambiguity. So, Big Team Hurley and all the others who are jumping in, go for it, carry on. I look forward to seeing how well you do. I look forward to seeing how well you all do in May. Because what the public who voted you in for, and they didn't vote you in for cracked pavements and drains and stuff like that. They voted you in for the big issues. That's why the independent movement gained momentum, and that's why we got so many over the line. And anyone who suggests otherwise is deluded. Here is Mr. Anthony Pearson. I don't know Anthony Pearson. He contacted me directly on Facebook. I've just been speaking to my niece, who's a CSE survivor, and case was covered up by the council. She's livid with the lady in Royton who won, Maggie something. She said that the woman before she was elected stood up in a council meeting and over the microphone gave a passionate speech regarding CSE. Since being elected, my niece said she's said not one word in meetings, not helping any survivors. In other words, she feels used. This is a survivor of CSE feels that Councillor Maggie Hurley has used her and abused her again by people for their own egos, votes, etc. It's disgusting that these councillors do this. Well, through various protests that I went and spoke at, by the way, my niece has formed a few friendships with other survivors, and they're all equally as disgusted. So I don't think there's any doubt. And as to the passionate speech, before she became a councillor, Maggie Hurley, with the support of, I think it was at the time, Jackie Stanton, put together a question that she had read out. We tidied it all up. At the 27th of June, full council meeting with a police officer, Andy Burnham, was there. So she's clearly used, and, you know, this man, Anthony Pearson's niece, is quite correct. Here she is, giving them grandstanding. Exploiting the victims, the survivors of CSE, according to, not me, according to, well, here, the very victims, the very survivors of CSE, who are equally as disgusted in the actions of Councillor Maggie Hurley. So it's not at all surprising Thank you, Julie. She said, I will be your voice. Let me just shrink that a bit. Thank you. So, she's not been their voice. And in the week, she has me, they have me blocked, by the way, on the Recusant 9 page is blocked on the Reuters Independent. So, I'm not really. You know, Jack, I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm not, I've seen things that, you know, like, what was it? Someone sent me something earlier that Paul Eric has liked one of the posts. It says Mark and Kath Wilkinson. I got the impression from looking at what was sent to me as Kath Wilkinson. Nick Summerscales, who I consider a friend, wants to have a dig at me. Listen, lads. The truth of it is that you can try and blame me, you can try and divert this into something it's not about. But the truth of the matter is, posts like this. The truth of the matter is that she got where she got off the back of promising to be the voice of the survivors of child sexual exploitation, the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. And now she wants to talk about dog dirt instead. Now, however you want to spin that, the failing does not come back to me. This failing here, I have been consistent from the beginning, and I'll be consistent until my dying day. We are here for a public inquiry. We want justice. Yes. The frozen bit, I'm afraid I think I've tried to explain to you all that my internet, it's still dropping off, but it resets itself, and I think I've worked out it's like if it goes off for a couple of minutes, but it will come back on and pick up where I left it, I'm hoping. So I should be back on now. Yep, good. So, what gripes me, and they can attack me all they want, I mean, it comes with part of the course, they're just the next in a line of people. And they're all bitter. Because somehow, maybe I was meant to be something else and have done something else. Just reset it, David. Flip it or something, I think, maybe. I'll give it a second or two. I'll give it a minute or two to sort itself out. No, I think you're right, sadly, Sheila. They all jumped on it. From Failsworth to Royton to Shaw, everywhere, they all jumped on it. Saddleworth, they all jumped on it. And maybe I was supposed to do something else. Maybe I was supposed to behave differently. Maybe I'm meant to be less aggressive. I don't necessarily think I'm aggressive at all. Committed, not aggressive. And I like how these people now refer to themselves and their teams as volunteers. Well, between the independent councillors that are in now, there's the best part of £100,000 a year in expenses, or salary, or whatever they draw down. So maybe I was supposed to have done things differently. If I was a councillor who'd got in, so let's turn this around. So what would I have done differently? If I was a councillor, I have a voice, I have power. I'll tell you a joke later about Big Team. But for now, let's assume what we all assume. That if you're an elected representative, you have a voice, you have power, you have authority. And if you have authority, I would have not been their voice. I would have amplified their voice because they already have a voice. I would be hosting survivor surgeries. I'd call them survivor surgeries. I'd be hosting survivor surgeries where survivors, the families could come in. I would be facilitating workshops with professionals who knew what had gone on but lacked the courage to speak out at the time because they'd fear of losing their job. Every question I asked the leader at the council meetings would be relevant. Every motion, every opportunity I would put forward a motion, every amendment possible. I'd have leaflet after leaflet. My Facebook feed would be full of me speaking to survivors or the professionals who were hindered from protecting children. I would ramp it up in such a way that there would be a reckoning of the type that these people believe does not need to take place now because they're in power and they're in power for 4 years at a time. So instead, they're involved in petty Facebook posts. And what makes it worse is if they had any appreciation of the context of what's taking place, which is what I want to talk to you about now. And I've left that up on purpose. I've left Anthony's post on purpose on there in the corner. Part 1 of Andy Burnham's review was to do with Manchester. Victoria Agoglio, horrific what happened to her, and confirmation that 96, 97 members of a grooming gang the police knew about and left them to it. Maggie Oliver, horrified. Her diary hidden by the police, hidden by the council. Minutes of the meetings disappearing. Apparently they'd lost the minutes. All of it complete lies. Should have forced a public inquiry. Nothing. That was part 1. Part 2 was Oldham. Confirmed every one of my allegations as true. Every allegation I made. They weren't allegations, they were based on fact. And everything I stated was confirmed as true. Although they still insisted it wasn't a cover-up, even though the evidence inside the report fulfills in every way possible the definition of a cover-up. Part 3, the bit specific to Rochdale, is scheduled to be out next week. This week coming. They can't delay it for much longer. It's scheduled out over the next few days. I would be putting out, using my powers as a councillor and a team of councillors, my commitment to supporting those survivors and drawing public attention to the upcoming release of the report. And I would be clearing out my diary, so me and my big team would forensically analyse every line of that 100, 200 page report that's about to come out. And refocusing and re-energising and pushing again and again and again for a public inquiry. That's what I would be doing. I'm afraid I can't tell you why the sound is cutting out for you guys. You'll have to just refresh the page maybe. My sound is fine at my end and my stream is showing excellent connection at the moment. So I know there's nothing at my end that could cause it. Let me just check the... I've just switched channels, so maybe that will help, but there's nothing at my end that should result in the sound cutting out for you. But I'll give you a moment. Part 3 of Andy Burnham's assurance review, so-called assurance review. Part 1 didn't provide any assurance. Part 2 didn't provide any assurance. And we're now at Part 3. About to be published this week. Thank you, it sounds okay. Jack, to give you some... I spend a lot of my time on YouTube, just by the nature of the work I do. My YouTube hasn't been good lately, and it's not just here, just anywhere. I first thought it was my server messing around Google Chrome or something. It's just not been running smoothly. So I think there's some glitches going on with YouTube as well, somewhere. But I'm glad we figured that out, and we're okay. So Andy Burnham's Part 3 report is coming out. Keep an eye out for it. And of course, I will provide analysis here. I'm done with the public domain. I'll provide an analysis here. I'll probably host a live Q&A on the report and also the newsletter. Hope you all got the newsletter, by the way. I put some effort into trying, make things a bit nicer and tidy things up. We are now supporting a smaller audience, and we'll leave these people to do whatever it is that they do. A bit dark. I don't know what to do about that, Evan. Just give me a second. So this is Oldham Council just before Christmas. Caused a lot of controversy. Let me just play it for you. You can see it says, "Happy holidays from everyone here at Oldham Council." And it's a Christmas message from the leader of the council.
Felt wishes of joy this holiday season. Here's to festive celebrations. Share. As your council leader, I wanted to extend my heartfelt wishes of joy this holiday season. Here's to festive celebrations, shared moments, and the collective strength that makes the Borough of Oldham truly special. From everyone here at Oldham Council, we wish you a happy time and a happy new year ahead.
A happy time and a happy new year ahead. Now, I raised this. I'm not the only one who raised it. Horrified, appalled by what took place. Here is Oldham Council on Facebook. You can see. First one is happy holidays, and then they, after criticism, they edited it to happy Christmas. She can't even say Christmas. Happy time, happy holidays. She can't even say Christmas. Yet here is Oldham Council. Let's move away from her because she's speaking on behalf of Oldham Council. She can't do that without the authority of the council. She speaks on behalf of the council. Here's Oldham Council earlier on in the year, on the 27th of June, wishing everyone an Eid Mubarak, and I'm a Muslim, and I was very happy to see a message from my council wishing my family and my friends Eid Mubarak. Eid al-Adha inspires us to foster unity and harmony within our communities. It encourages us to embrace diversity, promote understanding, and strengthen the bonds of friendship. Christmas, meanwhile, would be a word that is banned. And she's not explained, and nor have the council explained why. Now, I will explain to you what I have learnt is going on. There is a school of thought, a dangerous school of thought, in my opinion dangerous, amongst a minority of Muslims that I know personally. So I'm not speaking in the abstract. I'm speaking through personal experience. Who believe it is anti-Muslim to wish those that celebrate Christmas a Merry Christmas. It's committing a sin. Now, I don't believe that. And most of the Muslims I know don't believe that, which is why if you do know Muslims, most of them will have wished you a Merry Christmas, for those of you who celebrate Christmas. So what is going on here is and remember, she's not just a leader of Oldham Council, she's the chair of the National Constitutional Committee of the Labour Party, and she also is Andy Burnham's equality lead for Greater Manchester. So when she speaks, she does not speak as a Muslim who has those views. If you want to be intolerant towards others, well, in our country you have the freedom to be so, don't you? But you can't allow your narrow perspectives on religion, you can't allow that to get in the way once you take on the robes of civic office. Once you stand to be a councillor and you get elected, not just elected, you become the leader of the council, then your personal prejudices, and I'll use that word, prejudice, has no bearing, should have no bearing. Yet here we have the leader of Oldham Council refusing to wish the majority white, majority Christian members of our town, metropolitan borough, a very Merry Christmas. And by doing that, she's giving oxygen. She's giving oxygen to the prejudices of those from within my own community that I and many others are desperately trying to fight against, the prejudices. It starts, and again I'm sharing my views and opinions, and in this context my views and opinions as a former senior level counter-terrorism expert, counter-extremism expert. This is one small but extremely significant step towards our town becoming more and more divided, more and more, and the encouragement, and I use that word, encouragement, the legitimization of an extremist viewpoint that I, as a Muslim, can't wish you, as a Christian, a Merry Christmas. And this alone should lead to a standards complaint against Arud Shah. But who spoke out? Who spoke out? Yes, I did. I saw Chronic Oldham do something. He's been doing this long before I came along. And of course he'll speak out. Do you know who spoke out? The Oldham Conservatives, Lewis Quigg, Dave Arnott. They spoke out. The independents we elected, we fought for, who stood alongside us, objecting to this form of divisive, discriminatory behaviour, now in power, have nothing to say. Not about you, mate. You're not a councillor, but thank you. The official message from the leader of the council should have been vetted before it went out, and it should never have resulted in this town being shamed the way it was. And I agree with you, Susan. I agree with the last sentence in specifically. She is a danger to this town. I genuinely believe that. And I'll tell you why I think she refused to say Merry Christmas on the official message from the council. The Labour Party are in a mess in Oldham at the moment, in the Muslim communities, in the traditional Muslim strongholds. They're in a mess because of Gaza, because of Israel. Because Arud Shah stood at Parliament Square alongside Debbie Abrahams and encouraged all of that. That led to the closure of Elbit. Now, you can argue about the rights and wrongs of Elbit operating here in this town. But by doing what she did, she sent out a clear message to the Muslims in this town. I, as your Muslim councillor, am with you against Israel. She's now found herself in a position where her leader, Keir Starmer, has effectively endorsed war crimes in terms of denying water to civilians. That's not my viewpoint, that's a viewpoint held across the board. And she's stuck. So what she's trying to now do is find her way back in, because the Muslims have turned their back on the Labour Party en masse across the town. You saw what Debbie Abrams was forced to do, even though she hid it from her own Twitter feed, after meeting with the Mosque Council or the Interfaith Forum or something, apologising for not turning up to the vote. You seen how Jim McMahon was confronted with his bodyguard next to him. The Muslim councillors, none of them have been anywhere near either McMahon or Debbie Abrams in public since. So what she's trying to do is find a way back to bringing on board those who identify strongly with their Muslim identity above others, aspects of the multiple identities that everyone has. And she's now playing with fire. Because not for 1 minute think that this woman says something off the cuff. I believe what she said was planned. And its intention was twofold. One was to appeal, well, one was to wind you lot up and wind me up, and hope that we then say something racist or offensive that she can be a professional victim again for. Remember, this is a woman who believes samosas and mango chutney is an extreme form of far-right terminology. But I believe what she was trying to do is actually more dangerous. She was looking to appeal and legitimize herself and thereby legitimize the views of the more extremist, the more conservative, use whatever adjective you want, elements of Oldham's Muslim community who believe in leading parallel lives, who believe that it is wrong for a Muslim to wish a Christian Merry Christmas. And I believe that road is dangerous. And she's done that, in my opinion, to try and reach out to these people as an olive. I'll change the hub tomorrow, Nikki. Hopefully that will solve the problem. I'm afraid there's very little I can do. I had to shout and scream, well, as much as I do, to get them to agree to. So what she's doing is dangerous. And what should happen is a standards complaint should go in. And a standards complaint should go in from one of the independent councillors who, remember, when they knocked on your doors, when you talked to them all, they all talked about how important it was to protect our town, protect our culture, protect our values, protect our traditions. And now we have a leader of the council who doesn't even have the decency to wish people a Merry Christmas. How is that possible? And why are people silent? If Lewis Quigg could be hauled up in front of a standards board for making reference to samosas, if Mark Wilkinson can be attacked for using the word imbecile or childish or something like that, then Arood Shah should face a standards complaint. So which council is going to be brave enough to put forward the standards complaint? Because I can do it, you can do it. But we don't have the same gravitas if we did it. They can dismiss it easier. If I was an MP, I'd do it. I'd stand up in Parliament and say how outrageous this is, and where next? Where does this take us next? That's the question I want to ask you. Where does this take us next? Serving GMP officer charged with sexual assault and misconduct in public office. Came out at 12 minutes past 11 on New Year's Day. Greater Manchester Police released this press release. On Sunday, the 31st of December 2023, serving GMP officer PC Dean Dempster, with his date of birth, the 20th of February 1989, who was posted to GMP's Oldham district, was charged with sexual assault on a child under 13 and misconduct in a public office following an investigation by GMP. He has been remanded into custody and will attend Manchester and Salford Magistrates Court on Monday the 1st of January 2024. The officer has been suspended from duty and misconduct proceedings will resume upon the conclusion of criminal investigations. Now, the first thing that I think it's important to say is that PC Dempster has been charged. This has got no, in a court of law, in our legal system, thankfully, as I know all too well, they can't just throw you in prison. Even after being charged, they've got to take you to court, present the evidence, and you have a fair trial. And nothing I say here, and nothing any of you say here, will in any way, hopefully, it won't be from me, and I, want to make sure you understand as well. There's nothing that any of us say will in any way impact upon PC Dempster getting a fair hearing. So what I will focus on is what's already in the public domain. It was the BBC and the national newspapers that confirmed that the child that the police constable Dempster is alleged to have attacked was 6 years old. 6 years old. The Oldham Times hid the news of the age, and the Oldham Times also hid the news until we exposed them that the alleged offence, as reported in the BBC, took place whilst the police constable was on duty. And once they'd been embarrassed and humiliated, they updated the story, put out a new story, that an Oldham police officer was in court accused of sexually assaulting a 6-year-old child. Okay. A couple of years ago, when Arud Shah was the first-time leader of Oldham Council, half a dozen children got wet in the rain at Oldham Academy North because they wanted to do their Friday prayers and the classrooms were closed or something. So they decided to go outside in the rain, and the council leader issued a statement, and a whole host of politicians and the council got outraged over something as trivial as that. Yet here we have a serving Greater Manchester police officer based out of Oldham, charged with sexually assaulting a 6-year-old child whilst on duty. You know what I would want to know? And the background context of this is that the most senior police officer in Oldham has done a runner or has been moved to a desk job. No one at Oldham Police Station will confirm what's gone on. that the most senior police officer brought in under much fanfare has been sacked, removed from his job? I don't know. Shifted to a desk job. Not long after, the leader of Oldham Council's childhood friend was charged for a machete attack. And no one in this council says anything. No politician comes out and says anything. I'll tell you what I want to say. I want reassurances. I want reassurances from the most senior police officer in town. And if not, I want the councillors to be publicly asking, demanding answers, as they did when a child got wet in the rain. Demanding answers, making sure that this police constable, and yes, there's a court case to run, but as a parent, I would want to know that this police constable did not have access to my child. He wasn't part of a school team. He wasn't responsible for going into primary schools and doing assemblies. These are the sorts of things I'd want to know. Did he have access to children? Yes, he did. But did he have access to children in a more structured way? How long has he been in Oldham? An Oldham police officer. I want those reassurances. Irrespective of the outcome of the court case. Yet no one is asking for that. Why? What is wrong with those who we elect to represent us? This, I think, unfortunately for those of you who are interested in this, is going to have to be a question to the council. Why did they originally say under 13 years of age? Well, there's two reasons. One is either that under 13 years of age has specific legal significance. I don't know if it does, by the way. I've never come across it. A minor's a minor. She's under 16. Yeah, a minor. My own personal thoughts, mate. I'd have said under 13 years of age to deflect away from the fact that the child was age 6 or is age 6. I don't know. Maybe there's a legal case, but I'd think, I don't know. What do you say? Sexually assaulting a 12-year-old is less of a crime than sexually assaulting a 6-year-old? No. To me, they're both just as equally horrific. I don't know about you, but to me, they're both equally bad. The allegation, equally bad. If that's... I see no difference between a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old. Do you? I'm more likely to believe and share Denise's viewpoint. So, he's in court. I think, is it the 17th of January, the next court case? The 17th of January is his next court case, and I had to have a giggle. Because she liked it and unliked it. The Royton Independent, Jeanette Rowe, used to be here all the time. Liked my post, critiquing it, and then quickly unliked it. So you can see these people are still following what we do. And in terms of a cover-up, Denise, and it's not just the police GMP press release, because clearly GMP don't have the power and influence over the national press as they do the local press. Oldham Times today headlined, GMP officer convicted of rape among cases of misconduct. Then you read the story, there's no reference to the name or a photograph of the police officer. He's just referred to in the third person. Well, this one was a Greater Manchester Police detective. He was convicted of 20 offences, including rape and child sex offences. He was convicted in September 2023, so that conviction has now happened, and then following that conviction, he's been sacked for misconduct. And you can see his name, Detective Constable Stephen Hardy. He was posted within Stockport's GMP Stockport district. 20 offences. Of course, the more I look at this, the more I begin to understand that there's a layer upon layer upon layer. And nationally, it's emerged that one of the next, most likely next Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, who, by the way, always talks about being forensic, is claiming ignorance. I don't know any more than you do of the links between Mandelson, one of his advisors, who stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's New York townhouse whilst he was in prison for soliciting prostitution from a minor. So whilst this guy was in prison for soliciting prostitution from a minor, one of Keir Starmer's leading advisors in the leaked paperwork that's finally come out stayed at his New York townhouse. Just how high does this go? Because we know, in Oldham, with Rochdale being next door, that Sir Cyril Smith was protected by the security services. MI5 protected him. This is not a conspiracy theory, it's a matter of public record. They knew and they protected him. Now, I'm not saying Mandelson's anything involved, but what poor judgment. And more so, why isn't the next Prime Minister, the would-be next Prime Minister, instead of saying to the world, I don't know any more than you do, why hasn't he gone and asked his mate? And I'll bring it all the way back to Cyril Smith, Rod Blyth. Why have not a single one of these councillors in this town who knew these individuals not issued a simple statement to say, I had no idea that these politicians that I knew, was friends with, were child sex offenders? I had no idea. Why is Abdul Jabbar, at the time deputy leader of Oldham Council, in charge of the millions of our budget, why is he allowed to get away with the statement, I cannot recall, if I gave Daddy a reference? Why don't you clarify, Abdul Jabbar, whether you knew Daddy? If you can't recall whether you gave him a reference or not, let's ask the questions prior to that. Did you know Daddy? Did you know Shabir Daddy Ahmed? And if you did know Shabir Daddy Ahmed, in what capacity did you know him? Why aren't the councillors who promised to fight for the children of this town, who've been elected on that mandate, not asking these questions? What do they get from it? I don't know. Tell me. What does Mark Ince get from it? What does Maggie Hurley get from it? What does Sandra Ball get from it? And if they are genuinely claiming that they were elected to represent local people on local issues and not this, well then I don't believe them. Do you? On what basis are those who we supported to fight for us, and why are they now silent? Someone explain it to me, please. I'm going to have a little drink. Someone explain it to me. I can't think of any other money or been rewarded in some way, or they think they'll get rewarded. Of course, Starmer's in trouble, and I put this up because I wanted to show you this. This is a billboard that I think was crowdfunded, or they just put it up, I'm not sure what. But I want to put these up, not this one, but I want to put billboards up. I know all of you have raised £1,200 or so, £1,300, Denise. Thank you for that. I want to use that money to see if we can get some billboards up before the May election. Just continuing to highlight this issue. Remember, I'm not standing in May. The Prime Minister is as good as said the election won't be till November. I've been telling you all along it won't be till the back end of this year. But I'd like to get some billboards up that target Muslim voters and target white working class voters. Because I think there's two parallel betrayals, but underlying it's the same thing. You've been betrayed. You've been exploited. I want billboards about the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. And I want a billboard up about how Jim McMahon has abused his relationship with the Muslims. I think you're right there, Nick. You're 100% right about Cyril Smith. So that's what we're going to do, hopefully, in the lead up to May. So when they go knocking on the doors and they want to talk about dog poo, the people on the doorsteps won't want to talk to them about dog poo. They'll want to talk to them about the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. And the reason why McMahon and Debbie Abrams are in trouble with the Muslim community, and I wanted to bring this up because many of you have got in touch with me and said, Raj, it's got nothing to do with us. And I agree. I understand your viewpoint. But unfortunately, both MPs are on public record, McMahon and Debbie Abrams, wanting tougher sanctions against Russia. So what is it? We only talk about the foreign affairs that we care about? Moving on to domestic issues that we care about. You've all seen the post office scandal. You all know, those of you who follow any politics, any social issues, will know that the post office scandal is not new. People have died. And now MPs like Jim McMahon are jumping onto it after an ITV documentary that, by the way, whitewashes one of the key individuals involved, because he then went on to be the senior, was it the chief executive or something senior in ITV? He went on from Royal Mail to hold a senior position in ITV. So the documentary itself it's tainted. That's why you need a public inquiry. But that's by the by. Same with the grooming gangs, with the Free Girls documentary, before Andy Burnham spoke out. Why are you guys speaking out once the TV have done a documentary on it, or some sort of, it's not even a drama-mentary of some form. You should be speaking out much earlier, but you won't. And now you're just jumping on the bandwagon for publicity. But McMahon goes further. That accountability has been so weak is an insult. When's the last time misconduct in public office was deployed for significant failures in office? The neck on this lad. The neck on this lad is astonishing. Because he represents a town where we are not told how many of our children were groomed and gang raped, and he claimed it was a far-right conspiracy, and it was proven it wasn't. He claimed he was a victim of racism, of a victim of a far-right campaign. Instead of condemning the failures and demanding justice, well, the chances are, I think the chances are he'd be at the very least questioned under caution, wouldn't he? And again, who has the decency to jump on it? Not the independents who got elected off the back of the CSE scandal. Again, it's the Oldham Conservatives. And again, I'm not conservative. I've fallen out with Lewis. I've fallen out with Dave. We've had many a disagreement. I call it as I see it. Thank you, Tony. Adam Crozier. That's him, isn't it? The post office scandal is an utter disgrace. It is something ministers from all parties fail to get a grip of. There are several executives going back to 2003 who should face prosecution for this scandal. Sadly, it is not the only scandal that has yet to see justice being done. We are still waiting over 17 months into the review for a response from Oldham Council. They've been waiting a year and a half for a response from Oldham Council as to how many public officials at the council have been prosecuted for failing to protect our children from grooming gangs. So perhaps Jim will ask about prosecutions and misconduct in public office at Oldham Town Hall due to their failures to protect local children. That's from the Conservatives rather than the Independents, who, I agree with you, Gary, are career cowards. Or strategically far superior that I can't, you can't, none of us can see the moves they're making. Emperor's new clothes level of strategy. So here is McMahon calling for accountability and remaining silent on the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape and of our town's children, and who is going to be accountable for that, Jim? Misconduct in public office. Gerard Jones should be done for misconduct in public office, in my opinion. He should. It's in that report. He lied, he misled, he attempted to prevent at least one victim from giving testimony. That is misconduct in public office. That's as black and white an example of misconduct in public office as there is. It's evidenced. Gerard Jones takes the best part of £150,000 a year from you lot and continues to do so. He sat in that meeting with that smug grin on his face. If I was an independent councillor, or if I was a member of the big team, the independent group, or even the Failsworth independent group, I've picked on both groups, whoever is responsible for their child safeguarding, whoever is the designated individual, remember they've got to have a designated individual to sit on the CSE subgroup, of which minutes they hide from us. If I was that councillor, I would be demanding a meeting with Gerard Jones to explain himself. If I was that councillor, and there's 2 councillors, I would be setting up an independent panel. And inviting the Conservatives and the Lib Dems and anyone from the Labour Party to sit on it and say we are an independent panel. Parallel to the council. Calling for witnesses, calling for... It's not that they're scared. I think they're incompetent. And their arrogance has got them into a position where they think they know better. Not a single charge as of yet from Operation Sherwood. 18 months, give or take. Yep. Not a single charge. Forget convictions. Speaking of imbecilic councillors, your parish councillor, Meg Birchall, this is the one who sits in the public gallery with the fan. Let me just go back. Gary, it's what the Hillsborough lot did. It's what the Hillsborough lot did. They created their own. They created their own commission. And if it continues, we will create our own commission. I mean it. Remember, I didn't get involved in the politics for wanting to be a councillor or wanting to inform who our councillors were. I went down the road of politics and politicians and political accountability because that's where I wanted to believe that the solution to this would be, the accountability of this would be. That justice would be delivered by decent councillors being elected and fighting for us in the civic centre, in the town hall. If they won't do that, then we'll just ignore them. Maggie Hurley, Mark Ince, Sandra Ball. You can type whatever you want on Facebook. 4 years goes very quickly. We're 1 year in. And if I've demonstrated anything, it is that I've got far more staying power than all of you put together. Moving on. So this. Labour MP. So this is the Labour MP who dared to speak out for the right of women is hounded and accused of toxic transphobia after saying female single-sex spaces are not yours to give away. So a female Labour Party MP is fighting for women only, female only single-sex spaces. Enter Meg Birchall, introduced as a senior Oldham politician. He, she, they, I'm not sure. They. I followed the conversation on the Telegram feed. I chuckled at it, if I'm honest. There's like 50 posts trying to work out what her biological gender is. Like we're having an argument that there's such a thing as a biological gender and a self-identified gender. I have no idea, by the way. I don't care. What I do care about is that this Oldham councillor is pushing forward a narrative that female single-sex spaces should not exist. Single-sex spaces, as in, if you have a penis, you go in the men's toilet. She wants, he wants, they want, fuck knows. Councillor Birchall wants. Well, apparently it's transphobia. It's transphobia. This is obvious, and Councillor Meg Birchall likes to submit questions to Oldham Council, doesn't she? I think it should be another question. It should be another question that we submit. Does Arooj Shah agree with Councillor Meg Birchall that it is transphobic to have single-sex toilets where individuals with a penis go in one toilet and individuals that can give birth go in the other? I mean, what? I can't use the word men and women anymore, can I? It's outrageous, isn't it? This is where we're going. This is what they want. Apparently we're the racists, we're the sexists, and now we're the transphobes. Add another to our list. I'm laughing, but I shouldn't be laughing. Okay. I want to bring up 4 or 5 posts that the Oldham Times have put up, and I want to explain to you what's going on. We asked Britain's oldest pub chain whether it will return to Oldham. What Oldhamers want to see transform the town centre. Pair lured teenager to alleyway and raped her in violent predatory attack. That wasn't even in Oldham, by the way. What's been the best thing you've watched on telly this festive period? And that's an Agatha Christie movie where the main character was, a black person. A good use of public money or a load of humbug. They open from 3 p.m. on Christmas Day until 4 a.m. on Boxing Day. Bar manager aims to prove pubs not doomed to become HMOs. Okay, this is what's taking place here with the Oldham Times. It's a strategy I've seen used elsewhere, and you need to understand what's going on. What they're trying to do is lure you and others out, so you complain and whinge about anything and everything on purpose. This is all on purpose. So when the serious stuff comes along, it's like you've cried wolf and no one is listening to you anymore. They are putting stories forward, trying to provoke and antagonize members of the public, not just to get a reaction for clicks on the webpage or people to read their stuff. No, it's far more sinister than that, in my opinion. Go and read the threads and you'll see what they're trying to do is get you guys to comment, and so they can say, oh, not the usual moaners, not this, not that. So when something really dangerous comes along, really significant comes along, it can be dismissed easier. This is a tried and tested tactic. I've seen it used elsewhere. I've seen it used successfully elsewhere. And remember, the Oldham Times were funded by the Labour Party. In the lead up to the election, the Labour Party all-out election took out a front page advert, and the Oldham Times ran stories on Twitter that were adverts without the word advert on it, as though they were stories on behalf of the Labour Party. And the Oldham Times have been neck deep in the cover-up scandal and protecting Irish in all of that. Arooj Shah. So that is their social media tactic, or one of their social media tactics, is to put provocative articles up, articles where people can whinge or moan very easily on low-level stuff sometimes, or unpredictable stuff. So when the serious stuff comes along, when you do moan and complain, you're ignored. You're overlooked. It's a tactic. It's a well-established tactic, and that's what the Oldham Times are up to. So over the course of the week, have a look. Have a look yourself and see what comes out of it. And you'll spot the stories. Once you now know what they're up to, you'll spot the stories that are attempting to provoke you and create an environment where then when the serious stories do come along, you become lost in the noise. It's a tactic. I've been asked about this. It's a webinar I'm going to run very soon. Fails were fractured, Labour to return as the masters. I've seen the post from Kath Wilkinson having a go at me on the big team thing. I have no personal gripe. And you'll see when I deliver this workshop, I have no personal gripe. I will share with you what I think the situation is in Failsworth. And I will share with you what will likely happen in May if things continue as they are. And I'll share with you at least three possible solutions of how to make sure that Labour don't get in through the middle, because I'm very clear. They can whinge and moan about me all they want, but if we get this council into no overall control, the first motion that will go over will be one calling for a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, and every independent will vote accordingly, irrespective of what their feelings are towards me. I'm not in the business to be liked, and I don't care. So I'm going to run that. I am hoping moving forward there's a newsletter out every week, at least one newsletter out every week, and then some sort of more simple newsletter, one nice newsletter out every week, and then like a series of bulleted posts out every week. So do subscribe to Red Wall of the Rabble. That will go out to everyone, free. All my written work is free and always has been. And the webinars and these transmissions, 75 pence a week, plus whatever some of you give me, is how I keep my lights on. I think I provide value, and the fact that these people continue to attack me, I think demonstrates that there's only one place in this town where the political analysis comes from. There's only one grown-up in this political space amongst the independents, and it's from here. And I exist only through the kindness and generosity of all of you. Thank you very, very much. We've been, I'd say, with our 2 or 3 interruptions, an hour and 20 minutes or so. So I'm trying to keep it under 90 minutes. If you've got any questions, now's the time. I want to wrap up with like 5 or 10 minutes of questions, and I'll try and answer the questions. And then we'll, and this is now a private space. This won't get shared, by the way. I won't edit this and put this out for public. I won't do any of that anymore. So this will only ever be a link that you've got. So if you've got any questions, please put them up now. And I'll try my best to answer them. Yes, Evan. Unfortunately, the world is not as simple as it once was, is it? Louise, you're going away soon, aren't you? It's my friend Louise, who's another person who came on this journey with us, and I'm happy to have, someone sent me something. 13 and under is protected by Gillick competencies. Does it matter? A little bit. Yes, Louise goes to Australia soon. It's your daughter over there, isn't it, Louise? So that's the reference to 13. Someone sent me a message. 13 and under is to do with Gillick competencies. I think Gillick competencies is something around I'll look it up. I don't want to get it wrong. It's been a number of years since I worked for, I think it was Brooks Sexual Health Services when I first came across Gillick competences and who we could administer sexual health advice to or not. And I remember Gillick being referenced in the train, celebrating husband's 80th. Nice. Come on, guys, you're all still here, so give me a question or an observation or anything you'd like to get off your chest. Yeah, that's what it's to do with, isn't it, Sheila? Thank you. Good night, Lee. Lee sent me a message, upset that, and I'm upset as well. Sconer in Greenfield is closing down, or has closed down. It closed just before Christmas, and it's, I used to meet Lee every now and then for a cup of tea. Who are the new Oldham independents? Are you on about Councillor Cameron Gaffor and his team? If you're on about Councillor Gaffor and his team, my understanding, mate, is that the three of them are still suspended from the Conservatives pending the outcome of an investigation. Now, if they wanted to be genuine independents on a Muslim platform, they would just quit the Conservative Party. If you suspended me for standing up for Palestine, say you suspended, I'm Cameron Gaffor, and I've been suspended for standing up for Palestine, then one of the options has got to be I'd quit the Conservative Party and just stand as an independent and not wait for their investigation to be completed. But it seems that they're waiting for the investigation to be completed. When I spoke with the people I know in the Conservatives, it's all with head office, and everyone's waiting. We don't know. We don't know what the outcome of that is. But the fact that they formed an independent group doesn't bode well, can't bode well. It's, added. It's poking the bear, isn't it? No, my understanding, Evan, is that Mark, understandably, feels he wants to get his own back at Brian. So I think it's very divided. So I don't think they're pals again. And likewise, I think Brian wants to finish the Wilkinsons off once and for all. That's my take on that. Thanks, Liz. I also forget Sheila's you're a nurse or something, aren't you, Sheila? Or a school nurse or something. Sheila, are you thinking of standing again this time? You stood last time, didn't you? I'm around, mate. I'm around. I was meant to go and see Gary Martin for 3 days, and I'd not been well, so I spoke with Gary to say I'm not sure I'll be well enough again. But I spoke to him this morning. I spoke to Gary for an hour this morning, Gary Martin, that is, and his wife's not well, so I'm hoping to get there not this week, next week. So I'm around this week, mate. I'm around tomorrow. If you're in a brew. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Sheila. Why? You mean you stood, didn't you, the first time? And you won't be doing it again. You stood for the Oldham Heart Party, didn't you? I think that's the issue we've got, isn't it, really, Sheila? And I'm not picking on you at all. Before I knew, no suggestion. I admire that you stood. I think that's something to be admired. But it's the scaffolding around people, and it's hard to get good people to come forward. It's hard to get good people to come forward. Okay, look forward to Andy Burnham's report. It should be out this. My information is this week to look out for it. So look for Andy Burnham's Part 3 report. Yeah. Part 3 review. Nick, yeah, absolutely. It should be out. I'm sorry, Sheila. You're not a nurse either, unfortunately, sorry. But Alexander Ward, yeah. I think Alexander Ward is going to be interesting as well this year, Sheila. So maybe, it's a good time not to stand. Alexander Ward will be interesting because Labour have finally got rid of the white candidate there, and the third Labour candidate there is Asian. So if Labour gets in, it will be another all-Asian ward. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Louise. I'll say good night to all of you. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.